Winchester, Australia. Rocking my Winchester today, and it's been some bad news come out on Facebook today, and I just want to try and clear up a few things about what's happened with Winchester, Australia, and I want to try and dispel a little bit of the confusion around it, because a lot of people are very quick to post comments on Facebook and whatnot, and I don't think they really know the truth and understand the ramifications of the way the system works in Australia. And I really think that this should be an opportunity for people to really become aware of the firearm situation in Australia and the requirement for you to be politically active and make sure you do your due diligence and do the right thing for the shooting community, because too many people sit back and do nothing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by reading the statement from Winchester Australia on Facebook today, and then we're going to analyse a little bit of the outside influences of why this could have happened. And I do feel for them. I do buy a lot of their shotgun ammunition. I do have some of their primers for small rifle, and look, I don't have a lot of I don't have any of their powder or anything like this, so this doesn't actually specifically affect me, but I think it affects the community overall, and I really do feel for them, because any business that can cease doing what they do, that's not to say that they're going under or anything like that, but it has a flow-on effect, and I don't think it's good for the shooting sports or business in general. So let's go ahead and read this Facebook post. This is from 11 hours ago, and it's from Winchester Australia, and I'll put a link to this post, and hopefully it stays up. But Winchester powder supply statement. Winchester Australia would like to address the misinformation surrounding the ongoing supply of Winchester and Hodgdon powder in Australia. We've provided information to our dealer network this week that due to the ever-increasing costs from the manufacturer, decreasing exchange rate, importation and shipping via Brisbane, storage and the transport within Australia, it is simply not viable to bring in more product in the near future. We have always co-shipped component powder with yearly shipments of production powders. Due to the closure of manufacturing, this is no longer a viable shipping strategy. We have, in the market, seen a downturn in demand for these two brands. We reduced pricing dramatically at a great cost to our business in 2018 to hopefully spur on the market at this stage. In the continued absence of demand, we've been forced to concede that it is simply not currently viable to bring in more product. We have consistently reviewing all our aspects of our business and legal barriers surrounding the transportation of these types of products. Remember, this is not 1.3C, not general cargo, and must be shipped as an explosive, not a propellant. We don't create these rules, but we must work by them. We would love nothing more than to bring in more of this great product to our range, and we will update all of our customer networks when we're able to do so. And look, I think that's fantastic for them to be as bold as to come out and publish that on their Facebook page. I don't think there's anything too untoward on there, and they have allowed it to be open to comments, and the filth that is posted in there, that is just absolutely disrespectful. And there's a lot of people saying, oh, I'm never going to buy Winchester again, blah blah blah. I'd like to just call probably those people out. There's probably a lot of those people that have made that statement that have probably never bought their powders anyway, but that's beside the point. What I would like to say is I'm going to talk about some of the legislation regarding powders and why this has probably become a bit of an issue. So if you look at what I've currently got in my cupboard, I've got 1.5 kilos of Trail Boss, 4 kilos of AR 2208, got half a kilo of 2205, half a kilo of Benchmark 2, I've got half a kilo of 2208 again, yes that's right, I've got two, and half a kilo of 2206. Now there's only some crumbs in there. Now, I do believe though, when it comes to these types of things, they will say that the amount that you have is probably the amount the container can hold, regardless of the volume that is in the container. So even though there's only like not even enough for 122 round, that's probably considered as having half a kilo. So I've got a total of 7.5 kilos in volume there. Now let's go and have a quick look at the legislation. Now this is taken straight from the Explosives Regulation 2017. This is Queensland legislation. I'm not familiar or over any of the other states' legislation, and I would always tell you to refer to your legislation for your state when you look at these things. And this is Schedule 4, and we'll take it up in Part 9. Propellant powders stored by a person who holds a licence under the Weapons Act 1990, that's the Queensland firearms legislation. If powders are stored on a property larger than 2 hectares, maximum of 30 kilos, or otherwise a maximum of 15 kilos. So right there, with this small amount of powder, I'm at half of my limit to legally hold in this property, because I'm not on over 2 acres. I'm under 2 acres. I'm on 405 square metres. So I can't have much more powder. And I wouldn't even consider this a lot of powder. I mean, that's only really, you know, I want another 4 kilos of 2206H. Well then, you know, straight away, there's your, you know, you're up to like nearly 11 kilos. And if I've got another couple of things, it doesn't leave me much room. But let's read on. And this is the key factor in what happens here. Propellant powders stored by a person licensed to sell powders, maximum 100 kilos. Any gun shop in Queensland can only store 100 kilos. That is a pittance. That is not much powder at all. Now, what I wanted to do was go through some of the powder ranges, right? Okay, because this all weighs into this whole scheme of things, okay? This is legislated stuff by the government, and this is what has been deemed to be safe limits. Is it realistic? I don't think so, but unfortunately, there's not much we can do about it at this point in time. But this is why I'm telling you need to get politically active so we can correct these types of things. And if you want your Winchester powder back, you need to make sure you put your foot in the door. This is a list of all the ADI powders that are available currently on the market as far as I'm aware. Some of these might not be available, but to the best of my ability, what was available right now. ADI, BM1, BM2, that's benchmarks, okay? 8208, AS30N, AS50N, AP50N, AP70N, AP100N, APS350, APS450, 2207, 2206H, 2208, 2209, 2218, 2205, 2213SC, 2217, 2225, and last of all, Trail Boss. That's 20 different powders. Okay, Alien, Red Dot, Bullseye, Clay Dot, Green Dot, Unique, 2028, 2400, 410, Herico, Power Pistol, Power Pro 2000, Power Pro 4000, Reloader 7, Reloader 10, 15, 16, 17, 19, 22, 23, 25, Power Pro Varmint, Steel, Blue Dot, Power Pro 300. That's 25 different powders. Then we go look at the Winchester. There's I could only find 6. 231, 296, 248, 260, WST Super Target, and 572. So and that doesn't even include the Hodgdon stuff. So what we got there, if you think that if you've got a gun shop in Queensland and you want to keep a full range of all the products available on the market for all the different brands, and you had say 1 kilo, right? They do come in half kilo, but let's just trying to keep the math simple so you can understand the effects of what the legislation has done. If you have 1 kilo of every single product, that's 51 kilos across the entire range of only of what I've read out. Okay, but let's say you're in a gun shop, 2208, that's very popular. Maybe you want to keep 4 of them on the shelf, and 2206H, also very popular, and you want to keep 4 of them on the shelf. Well, if you had all the range, plus 4 of those in 4 kilos, that's a total of 83 kilos of powder just in a simple range. That leaves you 17 kilos. So if you wanted to have another mix of half kilo drums, that leaves you with 34 different options. Okay? And this is why the supply of powder is garbage. And this is why I think Winchester have had to make the decision that they've made. It's got nothing to do, I don't believe it has too much to do with their inability to supply the powder to their retail stores. I believe the problem is that the retail stores can't keep the stock that they require on the shelf. They can only order after they've removed those products from their shelves. They can't have an oversupply of powder. So you can imagine, 2208, 2206, they probably have to have 10 of these in a half kilo each. A couple of these, it doesn't leave you much thing. So what happens is the store can only keep the most popular powders in stock. So when you, the customer, decide that you can no longer, you don't want to buy a particular powder and you want to buy another powder, you either have to pre-order it or buy what's available. Now, what's going to be available? The most popular powders. So as powders become not popular, then they're not on the shelf anymore. And this means that if you're reloading one of these, let's say exotic powders or not common powder, what happens is it becomes extremely hard to find because they're not going to keep it on the shelf. So if you were reloading, say, Winchester 231, I think was one of the ones, and the next time you go there, it's not there. Well, what are you going to do? You try and go to another gun store, but they probably don't have it either, because what happens is once one gun store gets out, then all the rest get flogged and there's no gunpowder left. Well, of course, they're going to order everything in bulk and they want to try and get in some other things from the company as well. So then what do you have to do? You have to now do a load development, decide how much powder you need, what you need to change powders. So you're going to do a load development, go down the range, fire them off, do all this work, and that's a lot of work. And now that you've changed over from your 231, and now you're on your 2208, I don't know if they're comparable powders, I'm just using it as an example. It's likely that when you use up all this powder and you shoot all your rounds, are you going to go back to 231 or are you going to stay with the 2208? Because now that there's been a shortage the first time, you're probably not very inclined to go back to a powder that might not be available again. So what happens is, we the customers determine what the retailers are going to have on their shelves by what we want to shoot, by what's most common, by what's giving us the best results, and by what the masses are doing. Marketing obviously has a little bit to do with it, but in firearms there's not much marketing. But my point is that when things start to trend, other things are going to fall out of favour. When those other things fall out of favour, then they become harder to get, and more people are going to change over to what is more popular or more common or more available. And so you see this cycle, and it's very difficult to break. And the cycle has been determined by the legislation that I just read out to you, at least for Queensland specific. So you can see easily why Winchester have had to make a decision. Okay, we sell two powders. We sell ADI, which is an Australian manufactured product, and we sell an American manufactured product, which they don't have much margin on apparently. But it's not trending anymore. People want ADI. People want the Australian-made products. But now, of course, there's going to be a few people that have to do without, because the rest of the people aren't buying the powder that's most common. But you've got this ongoing problem with the fact that the retailers can't keep large supplies of all the powders. They can only choose the most common ones. So I don't blame the retailers for doing it, and I don't blame the customers for having to change. Now, we can sit here and we can go Winchester, Winchester, Winchester. I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think that's very unfair, and I think you need to take a look at the legislation, and you need to take a look at what you're doing to try and change those things. Now, at least we've still got ADI, and guess what? It's an Australian-made product. I've always bought ADI powder. That's all the powders I've ever bought, is these ones here. And I'm probably not likely to change at this point in time unless someone was to offer me some powder at significantly reduced prices or that sort of thing. Because I want to support Australian businesses. I want to support my local businesses. I always go to my local gun shop when I can, and I always buy Australian-made products where I can. So, as much as this is a bad thing, this is going to push a lot of people to have to go now and start buying Australian-made products, and that's really good, because if we move more Australian products, there's a chance that the price can come down. Now, I did see that I actually had the price tag on this 2208. It was $346. it's still like $345 like 8 years later. Like, the price hasn't gone up. And if we get more people buying 2208, hopefully the price will A, stabilise, or B, go down. So guys, before you get on Facebook and rip on Winchester, I don't think that's appropriate. Maybe go over there and say, guys, thanks very much for your good service. We appreciate what you've done for us, and we look forward to getting your powders back. And in the meantime, buy the Australian-made stuff and pull your finger out and see if you can make a change in your local government. All right, guys, that's it. I'm really quite passionate about this, and it's really aggravated me that people have this thought process, and it's not good for the community, and it's not good for our businesses, it's not good for our firearm dealers. And please, give us a big thumbs up, make sure you smash that knockout bell, and go out there and get them big bores, and look, please, leave a comment below if you don't believe me, or if you think otherwise, but I think you'll find that I've quoted your legislation, I've read all the stuff, it's the way it actually is, and there's not too much we can do about it. But until next time, guys, have a good one.